Hello, Internet, and welcome to the Deep Fried Neurons podcast. It is a podcast about stories that I find interesting, and I've found your story today. I think it's oddly long. I'm not sure. I didn't check the time today. But it's quite haphazardly done. I'm very sorry. I mean, I had the concept in mind. I didn't get to make bullets or anything, so it's one of those episodes. Uh, but you know what? I'll stop blabbering and cue the fucking thing for you. Utility doesn't justify oppression. I mean, it's an overlaying theme to the story I'm going to tell you today, but it is also something that is important for you guys to understand. Morality and utility sort of are independent concepts capable of existing completely in vacuum, separate from each other. But the truth about our physical existence in the three-dimensional world, on this tiny speck of dirt that we live on, actually mandates that these two concepts, at least in our brains, need to interact with each other constantly as defining features for our actions. But for this story, you have to understand that I'm gonna have to look at them separately. And you're just gonna have to deal with that, really. So I'm morally resigning myself is what I'm trying to tell you. Well, not really. I might actually chime in my morality. I'm very preachy that way. So I mean, good luck, I guess. But the story I'm trying to tell you is that of the man and the woman. And of course, here I mean the average man and the average woman. I know there are deviations from what we consider normative in society. And understand, when I say normative or normal in today's episode, it's a purely statistical concept, as it usually is. When people say something is normal, they mean that it happens to almost everybody in the society. They don't mean it's supposed to happen or it's okay to happen. That's how we interpret it, because I mean, we gotta live in comfort of knowledge that what is happening to us is not special or concerning. So, the man and the woman. Our story begins a little before society was understood the way we look at it now. I mean, society was forming, but it wasn't towards civilization. It was just forming. So, for example, you're a adult mammal, male or female. It just appears to you that, you know what, I can't survive on my own. I'm pretty bad at this. Hunting, and then going, like, taking it back to the shelter, eating it, sleeping, then hunting again. It's not working for me as well. So what do? You band together with some homies. You get a few guys together. You start a hip hop group. I'm sorry. You start a hunting party together, and you guys have a good time as well as you hunt together. So you can catch some big prey, a lot of food. You can bring all of it back, and all of you can eat it. Now it is just inescapable to you that this little society of sorts that you formed, this group of people that you pull your existence from, is going to be very pivotal to your existence. I mean, think about it. No more roaming in the wild looking for mates. No more roaming in the wild alone, in the danger of being hunted while hunting something else, or gathering whatever. It just gives you safety. It gives you all everything you need from life is here. So you don't want to look away from here. So now you gotta rise the ranks of the society to make sure, like, it works in your benefit and it doesn't run you down the trees. But you also can't help but notice that only one of you can physically give birth, and that process is very long. Like, it takes about 9 months. That's a long time, which sort of leads you to believe and understand that the members of society who can give birth are very valuable. Because suppose if there's 20 men and 20 women in your commune, and 20 women can give birth, 20 men cannot give birth, it appears that if you lose any one of these women, over time you're going to produce less offsprings, which means less people inside your society. So what do? You tell the women to stay indoors and don't come to hunt. Because if we lose you during hunting, if you get injured or worse, you die, then you're gonna set the entire society back. Your utilitarian value is way higher for us to risk you. Men, on the other hand, if you take all 20 of them to hunt and one of them comes back, it won't be such a big thing. The genetic pool will be much more limited in your society. I get that. But over time, there is possibly just as many children born as before. And that's an important distinction. It means that in the utilitarian understanding of the world, women become more expensive, more valuable in the eyes of society and in the eyes of the species themselves than women. So you can actually afford to lose one or two men here and there, which is why you send them to do the dangerous thing. And not just that, you even put them in charge of protection, because if during protection this guy dies, it doesn't cost you as much. Whereas a woman dies, shit is gonna go sideways. I mean, historically, gonna go sideways. But eventually things get better for you, you invented those spears. So you're smarter than that as well. You invented the wheel, you invented so much shit. And then you decided that, you know what? I don't need to go out and hunt and gather all the time. That's too dangerous. Fuck that. I can grow some shit. And agriculture becomes a central occupation in your species. So what you do is you grow shit near a river, and eventually it forms civilization. Now, in this aspect of things, the expendable nature of men is slowly going away. What I mean by that is that if you're not hunting and gathering, that means in the outside world, there is much less threat for you. So a woman could go to the fields, she could work just as well as men, come back home, but at the same time involves some risks. The plants still have a lot of diseases, a lot of snakes, poisonous insects, what have you. What I'm trying to say is there's shit that could kill you in the field as well. So again, you tell the women, you know what? You're too valuable. We can't let you outside. But this time there's a slight more assertiveness in your tone. Basically what they're trying to tell you is that, you know what? You're valuable and I can't afford to lose you. Because remember, these are pieces of protoplasm that are floating around in time and space. Look at humans that way and you will understand that their needs have got to be selfish in the core, and then have layers of different things, different explanations, different types of behavior, different theories. And now that civilization has been created, there is a new type of capital that is need to be reaped by societal beings like men. Social capital, access to resources, access to people, their respect, the community's emotional drive or even utilitarian drive for them to come save you as often as they can, as often as you want them to. Hence, you start gathering favors and you become this godfather type of thing. And eventually you think that because it's hedonistic to have sex and it's self-pleasuring for you to have sex with other women, you deserve more women as well. So not only do they give birth, but they also provide sexual pleasure to you. Eventually that means that they're more of a resource than that they're a person in your eyes. And as civilization begins, that's the footnote we start in. One who knows how to grow the plant better is the one who's holding all the land. He's been hunting for the last 100, 200, 300 years, I don't know how long. I mean, his ancestors. And how he got his genetic material is that the guy who hunted the best and survived the worst is the one who got to pass his genes on. Which means that it was encouraged for the masculine nature to be more aggressive, to be taller so that they could run faster, so that and stronger so that they could lift heavier shit, last longer or whatever. You've been selectively bred like dogs to be better at hunting and gathering. But the truth is, you don't need hunting and gathering as much anymore. You need to go outside and feel, use your body in the field and do some shit so that you could have food for society and then trade it for something else and you barter it and shit like that. But overall, you stay the same being. And now that passing your genetic material on is known to be a privilege that comes with a hedonistic sense of self-satisfaction, women have actively become a resource. And this difference will come up again, it's important, because wars will be fought soon in history. Which means now that the resource that you have, the women, need to be protected from violence in the war. So you send all the men to the war because they're dispensable. They could impregnate their wives, they could marry and have children, and they could leave. But the women who stay back, their wives, could wed the rest of the men left in the society, and they could carry on the genetic material and repopulate. In this term, the resourceful value of women has actually risen a lot more than men. Because at this point, they will probably send you to die in some cases, and that'd be completely fine. And society will actually approve that completely well as long as all of us survive. Attach a sense of glory to it, and you have got the perfect package for everybody. And you show gratitude and things like that. So there's that. And civilization then progresses and wars go on, and men kept being sent to die, and women keep being kept under houses as resources, and their utilitarian value gets more value than their individuality, because their individuality is not as important to you as is their womb and, well, the sexual pleasure they're capable of giving you. And by the 18th century, some women realized that, you know what? This is what has been happening. I'm not the primary sex. When I look at history, I see men talking about history from their perspective. They talk about glory from a masculine perspective. They look at almost everything everywhere, technology, races, civilization, as of their doing. I don't have a bigger part of it. I was livestock to a large extent in their perspective, even though I might have made contributions to the same society. And this difference is still relevant because wars are still being fought, and people are dying at a rate unknown at this point in history. But suddenly the coins flip. Like, technology has taken over, and now you don't need strength or going out as badly as before. The natural threats have been eliminated. You've concreted the streets. It's completely safe to go wherever you want, and you can get there fast, very fast than before. And you've turned this society on its head. So now there is no actual utilitarian value for women to stay inside the house. Actually, you could get more utilitarian value out of women if you go out and let them work, because they contribute to society. contribute to the economy as well. And since intelligence became the driving factor, then lasting the outdoors, survival is not actually at stake. Neither is fertility in this aspect. All that is at stake is power, and that's why we see ourselves descending into chaos. An egalitarian society that holds up the principles of equality, fighting with itself to understand this brave new world where we actually see equality as a logistical option. But the truth is, the way power works is that it sort of doesn't let you see beyond your comfort. It's a species thing. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. Nothing is inherently wrong. Good and bad are artificial constructs made up by morality for us to function in society. But to the standard you hold yourself to, you should understand that equality is chaotic, and that chaos is an actual sustainable option for us right now. Of course, we're not quite there yet. We'll be once completely replaceable, and the physical limitations of the human body will be completely gone someday. So will death and disease, and that's when we will get to explore this spectrum of individuality and creative freedom and whatnot that we've been trying to understand and uphold so far, but never have successfully, because the utilitarian value and greed of the utility that comes out of this value has been kept reaching out by people. What I'm trying to say is, patriarchy is one of the examples of power structures that came up in society as unjustified hierarchies to reap your utilitarian value and suppress your individuality was a byproduct of the same. Any hedonism that came from it came from the same perspective. And, well, you could disagree with that. I'm not exactly a scholar when it comes to feminism. I've read a few books. I've read Simone de Beauvoir and Virginia Woolf. I'd like to read more, to be honest. If you can comment anything, I'd be very glad to read it. But yeah, that's sort of my take on feminism and why we need it, because it's finally time to uphold to the principles that we've been considering as ideals for the longest time. And to me, individuality is very important. It's one of the things I live for. And to see that the fact that you don't have a penis gets in the way of that, at least where I am. I'm an Indian, remember. India needs feminism. I think all of us could agree on that. I know it's a blanket statement, but you know that a lot of women, okay, I'll put it this way. What I mean by India needs feminism is an uncomfortable number of women go through situations on a regular basis which shouldn't happen in a society that is truly committed to providing equality of opportunity to people. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for listening to me. I hope to see comments that call us SJW propaganda. But that's the worldview from my lens, and I'd like to do more about the same with other power structures and other power hierarchies in society. Thank you very much. That's all I have for you this week. I hope to see you next week. I have exams this week, by the way. Please wish me luck. And I hope you liked today's episode. I'll make sure I make more similar stories because this is more interesting to me. I know you've heard similar content on my channel before. And if you heard any noise today, I'm sorry. This is weirdly haphazard because I've never been so late to record a podcast and put it up. Anywho, that's all of that beside. Support us on Patreon. We need it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Keep following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, blah 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 blah. Wherever you're getting your shit, we're there, and would like you to follow us and find us and keep in touch with us. And it's really heartwarming that some of you message me telling me that you like the podcast. Makes me feel very nice. Super nice of you. So yeah, see you next week. Bye.